So, with the reveal of the Peter Sam prop being in America, along with some other reveals at the Unlikely Fandom event, the fan reaction to this news has been something like this. And so I thought it would only be fitting that my next video would be all about Peter Sam. Peter Sam is my favourite character in the Thomas series. I've gone on record in previous videos saying that, and so today I'm going to elaborate more on why I think he's the best character in the series. Now, some of you watching this might not even know who Peter Sam is. Well, Peter Sam is a small narrow gauge engine who works at the Skarloey Railway. He has a brother-like relationship with Sir Handel, who has been with him since his old railway. He has a deep respect for everyone, especially Duke and Skarloey, and he even sometimes has a respect for characters who maybe he shouldn't be, like Henry and Sir Handel. He is always optimistic, eager and happy to work, and is more than willing to help out when other characters are sick, which can lead to him being taken advantage of. Some might say he's a gullible character, and yes, he will sing songs to himself like a merry little schoolboy.
I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line.
Ah yes. Peter Sam is a simple character. He never complains and is always content with what he's given. This being a stark contrast to Sir Handel. But even if they are very different characters, the two still care for one another like brothers. Peter Sam is a wholesome, kind-hearted engine, but can still be quite foolish. And today, I'm going to explain exactly why I love him. Now before I get into explaining why I love Peter Sam, I first just wanted to briefly go over his history of his basis. To understand Peter Sam, we first have to understand the history of his basis, Edward Thomas. So, Edward Thomas was a Kerr-Stewart locomotive built in Stoke-on-Trent and was brought to the Corris Railway in North Wales, where he became the number 4 engine. The engine was a modified version of the Tattoo class and arrived at the Corris in 1921. She proved to be a very useful engine, handling much more effectively than the other 3 Falcons in the railway. It should be noted that she also had an incident with her funnel too. However, by 1947, with dwindling traffic, the Corris Railway sadly closed its doors. By this point, 2 of the Falcons had already been scrapped, and so the remaining Falcon and Kerr-Stewart were tarped up, their fates unknown. However, across the valley, not 30 minutes away, a small narrow gauge railway was having a locomotive crisis of its own. The Talcon Railway, now under preservation, and with number 1 out of service, and the old lady, number 2, looking worse for wear, it was only fitting that the railway would purchase the Falcon and the Kerr-Stewart from the closed railway. Costing roughly £50, £25 each, which in today's money would be a collective £2,100. The Kerr-Stewart was renamed Edward Thomas after the original general manager, Edward Thomas, who became a staple of the railway. She was often the crew's first pick and was in the workshop as little as 3 years in her working life, acting as one of the railway's most reliable engines. While the Falcon, now renamed Sir Hayden, would often fall through the rails and would be unreliable, Edward Thomas was definitely the more reliable of the two. It's easy to see where the Reverend got Peter Sam's character's influence from. She even received a new experimental funnel, although unlike Peter Sam, hers was a complete failure, and has since been replaced with a more traditional funnel. Not the first time a liberal idea failed the Talcon, yellow coal. But despite a minor funnel setback, Edward Thomas was still one of the most reliable engines on the Talcon Railway, and you can actually go to the railway and visit her to this day. So, now that we've gone over her history, let's talk about how that relates to Peter Sam. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. Peter Sam's first appearance in the Railway series books was in 4 Little Engines. This book was written by the Reverend W. Awdry to try and advertise the Talcon Railway to his readers. Similar to the real-life history, Skarloey, number 1, was in an open shed, while the new engine, Sir Handel, and Peter Sam came to the railway, who both paralleled the real Falcon and Kerr-Stewart coming to the Talcon. Peter Sam is shown to be very excitable and eager to work. This is in direct contrast to Sir Handel, who is the opposite of him in every way. When Sir Handel will fall through the rails, like his real-life basis, Peter Sam will always be eager and excited to work for him. You can definitely see the inspiration of their bases rubbing off here, where Sir Handel will call the coaches cattle trucks.
Those aren't coaches, they're cattle trucks. Ooh, screamed Agnes, Ruth, Lucy, Jemima and Beatrice. What a horrid engine!
Peter Sam will always call them his darlings.
That's the way, my dears, gently does it. What did he say? He said, come along, girls. And he called us his dears.
Peter Sam is a sweet, kind, and wholesome engine. Although he's not without his faults, he is sometimes cocky and has an excitable nature which can cause him to leave the refreshment lady behind, which, fun fact, was based on the time the Reverend Audrey left a passenger behind when he was volunteering as a guard at Dalton Railway. I love the dynamic going on between Peter Sam and Sir Handel. When Sir Handel is rude, Peter Sam is kind, and that's nowhere better exemplified than in their first interaction to their new shed, where Sir Handel is completely ungrateful.
What a small shed, grunted Sir Handel. This won't do at all.
While Peter Sam is incredibly appreciative.
I think it's nice, said Peter Sam. Huh, replied Sir Handel.
These two are such a yin and yang to each other, and I find it such a shame how everybody goes on about how much they love Sir Handel, while no one ever seems to talk about Peter Sam. Peter Sam gives Sir Handel balance. You remove Peter Sam, and Sir Handel just becomes a Duncan or a Gordon. This is the exact same thing with Greg Heffley, where everyone memes about Sir Handel being Greg Heffley, but nobody ever thinks about how Peter Sam is like the Rowley. And I think that's a big shame, because I think there's a real wholesomeness to Peter Sam that just isn't present in any other characters. There's a real gullibleness to him. Like how Duck says the Dukes were scrapped, and then Peter Sam immediately assumes that it's his Duke that was scrapped.
But I keep telling you, said Duck, there are no dukes. They were fine and stately, but they've all been scrapped. Peter Sam goggled in horror. This is dreadful, he wailed.
Or how Henry has an offhanded remark about leaving without him, and Peter Sam is so gullible as to believe him, and spends the rest of the day thinking about it. Or how Sir Handel pretends to be sick, and Peter Sam foolishly takes his trucks, only to be mistaken for Sir Handel, and end up in a horrific crash. He's very much a naive character. He'll believe in anything that anyone tells him.
Beep, beep, wailed Peter Sam.
And he'll always see the good in someone, even if that someone isn't necessarily good, like Sir Handel.
I'm sorry, Skarloey. Sir Handel's upset now, but he's quite nice, really. Skarloey felt sorry for Peter Sam.
I think the main reason Peter Sam is so naive and gullible is because he just doesn't understand malevolence. Because he himself is so kind-hearted and good, he just can't identify bad things. He's a do-gooder who is easily taken advantage of, and that is why it's so satisfying when we get to see him win. Like when we get to see him pull the BBC documentary, or when he gets a special funnel. Now, to be clear, Peter Sam can get cross, but I feel like he only wears it as a mask. Like, even when he tries to act cross to Henry, he's still secretly gullible on the inside.
If you are late tonight, I'll go off and leave your passengers behind. Pah, said Peter Sam. Secretly, he was a little worried.
He's still secretly gullible on the inside, like how he doesn't know about guaranteed connections.
The refreshment lady laughed. You silly engine, Henry was teasing you. He's a guaranteed connection.
Bruh. Or how he genuinely thinks that someone squashed his funnel.
Oh dear, exclaimed Peter Sam. Someone squashed it.
He's a very naive character and is very unaware of the world around him. I think Special Funnel was a real turning point for Peter Sam's character, because up to this point he had been very put upon, having left the refreshment lady behind, or his accident with the trucks, only to have a wobbly funnel because of it, and then to lose the funnel, and then to be made fun of it. It really was satisfying to finally see him get his funnel and get a new lease on life. After getting his new funnel, Peter Sam became a much more confident character. He became more dismissive of characters like George and Duncan, and was an all-round more confident engine. Although, even though he had a newfound sense of confidence, he was still the same old gullible Peter Sam. Like believing Duck when he said that Dukes were scrapped, or how he asked the Duke if he was real. Now, up to this point, which railway Peter Sam and Sir Handel came from was unclear. There had been a few mentions of it before, like how Sir Handel said that he was an express engine, or about how Peter Sam mentioned his old line, or how in Small Railway Engines is very clearly shown on the map. But it wasn't until book 25 of the series, Duke the Lost Engine, where we finally got to see this mysterious railway. The book is told in flashback from Peter Sam and Sir Handel's perspective, recounting their early days on the Mid-Sodo Railway. Back then they were called Falcon and Stuart, which I'm sure you'll realise now was a reference to their bases, Falcon and Kerr Stuart. There is a lovely triad between these three engines. Sir Handel and Peter Sam are like two brothers, and Duke was like their granddad. Hell, they literally nickname him Grandpuff, which, fun fact, was also a nickname that Audrey was given by his grandchildren. It was so cool we got this flashback to Peter Sam's younger days. Seeing him with no buffers just like Edward Thomas on the Corus Railway was especially cool, and you just get a sense that these three really love and care for each other when all is said and done.
In my young days, engines were seen and not heard, Grandpuff. We know. We'll all be back to work tomorrow. We're glad you've come back. We can keep you in order now. Keep me in order. Be off with you. Impudent scallywags.
Now, on to the later Chris Audrey era books. Peter Sam really didn't do too much in this era. He crashed into some branches. He took on some bad water at Talchin, which, he really didn't do too much in the Chris Audrey era, if I'm being honest. But if there is one thing I'll say that I like about the Chris take on Peter Sam, is that he would always make sure to remember the Talchin's history, like how Peter Sam visits there, and the Audrey link between the Scarloy and Talchin Railway was always remembered, you know? Which is actually quite an important part of Peter Sam's history, is this sort of controversy between whether or not the Talchin Railway could actually run Peter Sam, which you can actually see in this interview clip.
Now, for the past 10 years, the railway line has been running beautiful Peter Sam here up and down the line, carrying lots and lots of children, and they've really enjoyed it. That's all about to change. The problem is that the company, the railway line, actually paid the copyright holders of Thomas the Tank Engine a mere £1. It was a token kind of payment, but that's all changed. Brit Allcroft Company, who own the Thomas the Tank Engine copyright, say that in actual fact they will not allow Peter Sam to run.
But thankfully, Mattel and the Talchin Railway have figured out a little deal so that they can actually run the engines. So yes, to this day, you can still go to the Talchin Railway and you can go see him. So I'm glad that they finally came to an arrangement in the end, you know. Now onto the TV series. Now in the TV series, they shook up Peter Sam's stories slightly. So instead of starting off with 4 Little Engines and finishing on the Duke stories, they did it the other way around, where we actually start the stories on the Mid-Sodor and then transition to the Scarloy Railway. I really like that they made this change. I like that they show the chronological story rather than flashing back at the end of the season. The stories pretty much play out the same. Peter Sam comes to the Scarloy, he leaves the refreshment lady behind, he gets into the crash. The only difference in the story being that Peter Sam and Sir Handel keep their blue and green liveries from the Mid-Sodor Railway. It was honestly a smart decision, not just for the merchandise, but also because I think Peter Sam just wears his green livery nicer than he does his red. Plus, it's not like it's an unrealistic thing to have an engine wear their old livery as a homage. Hell, the Talchin Railway literally already does this, so yeah, I'm fine with it. Like I said before, I really love Peter Sam's character in these few episodes. He's just so gullible when he believes Henry.
"Pa," said Peter Sam. Secretly, he was a little worried.
He always sees the best in characters even when he shouldn't.
Sir Handel's upset now, but he's quite nice, really.
And I just love, after a whole season of misfortune, his last lead role of Series 4 is him getting a special funnel, which is one of the few changes that they were actually pretty consistent with in later seasons, because you'll notice in all later seasons he always has his new special funnel, which is really cool. Now, Peter Sam didn't do too much in Series 5 and 6. In Series 5, he lets some trucks run away from him on a hill, and Duncan teases him for it.
"Fancy no securing your trucks on a hill. They'll come back to spook you in your special funnel. Woo woo woo."
And then in Series 6, when passing under a branch, he loses his whistle, which may have been a callback to him losing his funnel, and again, Duncan makes fun of him for it.
"I can't run on the tracks without my whistle," chuffed Peter Sam. "An engine's not an engine without a whistle." The rest of the engines just ignored him.
It's clear that Peter Sam is very much an unfortunate character, but one thing I really like about Peter Sam in these middle years was that they actually continued his relationship with the refreshments lady, even giving her the same polka dot dress and pink cardigan. In this episode, Peter Sam feels badly for the refreshment lady not being able to move around and wants to help her find a new tea room.
"What a shame I can't build a tea room in each place." Peter Sam was very disappointed. He didn't feel useful.
This is so in line with Peter Sam's character, going out of his way to help another character. I also love that canonically Peter Sam gave the refreshment lady he left behind her very own tea shop. It's like Peter Sam's way of saying, hey, sorry for leaving you behind that one time, here's a tea shop. I love Peter Sam, he is such a sweet character. It's rare that the middle seasons would ever reference the Series 4 Scarloy Railway stories, so the fact that this episode is a sequel is pretty damn cool, although saying that, Series 7 did have quite a few sequel episodes now that I think about it. In the later hit seasons, Peter Sam only had 2 lead roles as a character, those being the Magic Lamp and Mountain Marvel. In the Magic Lamp, Peter Sam is told a story about Proteus and his magical lamp.
There was an old engine called Proteus. His lamp was so bright you could see it for miles around.
And Peter Sam spends the rest of the episode looking for it. But then, oddly enough, later in series 12, we actually see Peter Sam meet up with a Proteus statue.
Fizzling fireboxes. There, in front of Peter Sam, was a statue of Proteus.
Which makes it a rare instance where the hit era actually had continuity? What? I know you could argue that it's just a coincidence that they picked Peter Sam to be in this story, but it can't be since Proteus's only other appearance was in the Magic Lamp, where Peter Sam was a main character, so yeah, it must have been intentional for them to have Peter Sam be the character who finds Proteus, since he was the only other character with that connection. So, for once, hats off to you, hit era, for actual good continuity for once. Honestly though, all of Peter Sam's episodes feel like one continuous story in a weird way. Like how he starts off as steward on the Mid-Sodor Railway, then he moves to the Skarloey Railway and his name changes. He leaves the refreshment lady behind, which pays off in later seasons, where he actually gets her own tea shop, or how the crash with the trucks, which ties in with his funnel becoming loose, and then eventually losing it, only to get a new one, and then that square funnel remains consistent throughout the rest of the series, right up to the hit era. And then in the hit era, he learns about Proteus and about his lamp, and then years later in the same hit era, he actually finds Proteus in the form of a statue, and then it's put on display. I know none of this was mapped out or planned by any of the writers, but I just think it's cool that Peter Sam has this sort of unintentional ongoing story that you can follow. Something you really can't say about many other characters in the series. I think the model series did a remarkably good job with Peter Sam. So, let's see how the CGI handled him. So for the first 3 seasons of the CGI era, the Skarloey Railway didn't make a single appearance, and honestly, I think that's what killed them. It wasn't until Blue Mountain Mystery where they made their grand reintroduction to CGI, and oh man, did they come back in style. I love the look of the narrow gauge engines in the CGI series. I especially love Peter Sam. I love his more accurate model with the more accurate Giesel ejector instead of the weird square funnel that he had in the model series. The black running board, the rivets. It's like the perfect balance between the model series and the realistic engines, which Nitrogen did such a good job of. I also love his personality and character. He feels like the old Peter Sam again. And I especially love his voice by Steve Kinman.
Hello, Thomas. You look cheery.
It's slightly Welsh and feels very naive, and every time he speaks, I just can't help but laugh.
The stones would have been very comfortable.
It reminds me a lot of the voice that Stephen Kinman gave to Elvis in Fireman Sam.
Buck Douglas, can I have your autograph?
My day wasn't a bother at all, sir.
I think a lot of my love for Peter Sam in the CGI era definitely comes from Steve Kinman's voice performance for him. He just gives him such an adorable voice.
Hello, Luke. You're in a hurry? Oh, help.
I love this scene right here. Peter Sam is so inept to the whole situation. It's just so funny. Peter Sam was the only narrow gauge engine besides Duncan, Luke, and Millie to get his own Spotlight episode on the railway. Don't Bother Victor is honestly the best Nitrogen episode. You know how most Nitrogen episodes the main character will act like a total idiot for the whole runtime of the episode and is very annoying? Well, here, Peter Sam being completely inept and being a complete idiot to the other engines actually kind of works in a weird way. Like, it wasn't their intention, but it kind of works him being very foolish, you know, because that's kind of his character in a weird way. It wasn't until I actually watched this episode at a Talcan Railway with Thomas Fan 2002 that I realized just how accurate all of these sets and locations are. The way the water towers look, the way the grass and the slate feels, it just looks like Wales. And then getting to see Victor out of the steamworks, that was so cool. It's such a shame they didn't do more episodes like this. In my opinion, this is the best Nitrogen episode, and is an absolute underrated gem. The fact that we actually got a Peter Sam episode in Series 16 still blows my mind to this day. And seeing Peter Sam be so in character, being so gullible and naive, I love it. Now, Peter Sam had a few other minor roles in the show. He mostly stayed in character. Hell, they even referenced his special funnel again.
Wonder if my special funnel would win a prize. there's not many quite like it after all. Which way to the funnel competition?
But for the most part, Peter Sam, along with the other narrow gauge engines, pretty much faded into the background, never really to be heard about or seen again. Like I said before, I think the fact that the Skarloey engine's return was delayed by 3 seasons is what killed their potential in the show. Like, even before in the hit era, they only disappeared for Series 8 before returning in Series 9, whereas here, they last appeared in Series 12, and then didn't return until Series 16, which I think was too little too late in my opinion. But regardless, I am still incredibly grateful that they somehow managed to make a Peter Sam episode in the CGI era. I like that he got an episode because he really feels like an underrated character, especially with how much everyone goes on about how much they love Sir Handel and make memes about him. You know, it's a shame because I feel like Peter Sam totally has that meme potential as well. In fact, I even made a few memes of him too. Peter Sam is the type of guy to say,
"Now a silly one,"
when taking a group photo. Peter Sam is the type of lad to say,
well, well, well,
when he meets his nemesis. Peter Sam is the type of fella to put down the controller in GTA and say,
"I can't do this."
oh my god. Peter Sam is the type of boy to say,
"Well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere,"
after the waiter asks if he wants the drinks menu. Peter Sam is the type of guy to say,
"I can see my house from here,"
on a very high building. Oh my god, I love you, Peter Sam. I know Peter Sam isn't everyone's favourite character. Hell, he isn't even everyone's favourite Skarloey engine. A lot of people like the wisdom of Rhaenyra and Skarloey, or the spunk of Duncan, or the bad attitude of Sir Handel. But in my personal opinion, Peter Sam will always be my favourite. Not just Skarloey engine, but favourite character of the entire show. There is no other character I can think of who is so gullible or sweet or wholesome as Peter Sam. He really is a character who wears his heart on his sleeve. I know most of you will probably prefer the brashness of Sir Handel, but Peter Sam is what gives Sir Handel his balance. They are like a yin and yang to each other. It's like I said earlier about Greg and Rowley. Yes, Greg is an awful person, and it's fun to watch him, but you can't have Greg without Rowley. And I think that's why Peter Sam is an important part to the Thomas franchise, because there is truly no other character who gives a better balance or has a bigger gullible heart than he does. I think I just have an affection for Peter Sam in the same way I like kittens, you know? He's just an adorable character. He's just so cute and silly and foolish, and he's just a good boy. I love him. I love you, Peter Sam. So, here's to you, Peter Sam. May you forever remain as special as your special funnel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Slán Abhaile.
I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line. 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 I'm Peter Sam, I'm running this line.
Impudent scallywags.